Hello and welcome back to Cha-Ching Chats. I'm Sarah and I'm here with my co-host.
Cheryl, and we
And we
have a guest today. We haven't had one in 2 weeks, so we are
I
super
know.
excited to welcome Denise.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Denise has a very unique side hustle, and it's probably more of a full-time hustle at this point, or at least at this point in the year. She's probably picking up more and more clients. So Denise does scholarships. And I know that when I first mentioned Denise was going to be on our initial podcast, we had several people that commented that they wanted some information on this. They had, I think Cheryl had a granddaughter about that age, and we had some other people that were very interested. So Denise, why don't you tell us about your how you got started?
Well, thank you for asking that, Sarah. It really is kind of I'm gonna call it a desperation type of story. My husband was working for corporate and doing quite well, and he had been with the same company for 15 years. There was never a layoff in sight for him, except for this particular moment in time. So he was laid off. He got a job quickly with another company, and I felt like I could breathe. And then he got laid off again just a few months later.
Oh no.
And then the stock market crashed. Oh my gosh, we had just built our dream home. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we got to put the house on the market because we got nothing coming in and we still have bills to pay. With a stock market crash, unfortunately, nobody's hiring and nobody's buying houses. So the money started running out pretty quickly. At some point, I realized we have no choice. We have to hire a bankruptcy attorney and declare bankruptcy. We had just enough money to hire him and buy a lawnmower and trailer to mow lawns to put food on the table. Now, the bankruptcy, a lot of people will say, well, that's on paper. This is liquidation. If you could touch it, it was sold.
Wow.
So everything we had worked for 15 years for was gone. Books, toys, Christmas decorations, furniture, pots and pans. You know, we've all either attended a garage sale or had some ourselves. But this is having strangers walk into my house and make an offer on the pot I was cooking my dinner in. I had to ladle my food into a container and sell my $200 Magnolite pot that I had gotten as a wedding gift and sell it for $5.
Wow.
But the hardest part was the fact that the house, of course, went into foreclosure. We had to move into a small apartment, which also meant our 2 dogs had to go. Now, if you're dog people or cat people, these are not pets. These are your furry children. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. There you go.
I'm going to start boohooing here in a second.
Trust me, it is
I'm really
hard for me
struggling.
not to. It is hard for me not to. I'll never forget my children running into the house crying as the 2 dogs were driven away by their new owner. Well, a few months later, we're in a small apartment, and it suddenly hit me that my daughter is starting high school. That means college is around the corner. How are we going to pay for this? We had no savings, no 401k left to borrow against, no house to borrow equity from. And then I realized that bankruptcy means we can't co-sign for those student loans. So everybody loves to talk about those student loans, about every 2 years when it becomes a political football.
Right.
But you have to have credit. Somebody's got to co-sign for that puppy, and that means parents or grandparents. So that took loans off the table for us. Now what do we do? Well, I started doing the research because I was desperate, but I felt in my heart there just had to be a way. And I was on the computer day and night until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, every single day, researching, because I realized there has to be some kids that they're not wealthy. They're not geniuses getting a free ride. They're not college athletes, because we all believe student athletes get paid, right? And by the way, everything I'm telling you here is a myth that these kids get to go to school for free. It's an extraordinarily small percentage of those kids that get any money to go to school. And of course, there's those who are in the opposite end of the financial spectrum and they have no money. Maybe their poverty level, maybe their children are in the school lunch program. They get to go for free, don't they? No. All of this are beliefs that we have been telling each other for decades, and this is not what gets free college. So in the research, I'm talking to my friends about what I'm finding. And the first thing I hear from my very best friend is, Denise, you're starting too early. Wait till junior year for that. Because again, that's what we're told. So at this point, I'm realizing that 70% of college students graduate with some amount of student loan debt. And that can be anywhere from $5,000 to as many zeros as you want to add to it. But I can do the math. That means 30% are graduating debt free. What are they doing that they're not telling the rest of us about? So that was what I was researching. What is different? And literally everything that I told you that is a myth, they did the opposite of. They did not wait until junior year of high school. They were starting ACT exams, getting study skills, etc., in middle school. Oh, and get this, you mentioned scholarships in the beginning of the program. College scholarships begin in kindergarten. Everybody is leaving money on the table. Everybody.
Okay, we can't have that. That's like that's like my whole that's my tagline. We're not leaving any money on the table.
It's amazing what you don't know that you don't know. And let me tell you something, and that stuff that you have to know can change from one year to the next. I do have, now everything that I talk about in my courses, in my blog, everywhere in my books is specifically for US citizens, but I do have international students and families that come to me as well. And they're terrified because they feel like they are really behind the 8 ball. They feel like they're behind everybody else who actually attended college in the US, parents. But no, I have to calm their fears. It's like, you don't understand. It's actually just the opposite. You are wise enough to know that you don't know. But families who did go to college, they think they know because they went to school and they've been through it. But everything has changed. Everything. And I do mean absolutely everything has changed. So it is really, sometimes it's difficult to change minds for parents who are kind of set in their beliefs. I can't fix that. But I'm going to say, if you're pliable, if your mindset is that what's most important is to help your kids to be able to get college acceptances and get scholarships, and preferably get enough to completely cover it, now we have a conversation. When I was doing this research, what I did, and of course, there's no guarantee of what's going to work because nobody had ever done this before. Nobody had ever looked at What is it that makes this work for those who are not geniuses, not going to college on the Pell Grant, not student athletes, etc.? But what I did is I took anything that sounded remotely logical that it might impact college acceptance or winning scholarships. And by golly, my kids were going to do that. All right. So now my daughter is a high school junior. Now, I didn't mention earlier, but I homeschooled both of my kids. So tag you're it. I'm the high school counselor. Yeah, that's a scary feature too. There you go. So in doing these things throughout high school, and again, starting as early as middle school, my daughter was in her second half of junior year, middle of her spring in March of junior year. And she applied to her first college. Now, this is a college who doesn't say our application opens August 1st and you can't apply until then. No, they have an application that has dates at the top, years, and fall, spring, whatever. Just check the box, tell us which semester you plan to start. That's how their application went. Well, guess what? In 6 months, nothing's going to change. She has her ACT scores. She's not taking it again. Her grades aren't going to change. Her activities aren't going to change. So she might as well toss her hat in the ring and go ahead and apply.
Right.
3 days later, we get a phone call. Now, ladies, this is a gentleman calling for my 16-year-old daughter, which is one reason why I asked my parents, put the parent phone number on these applications, not the teenagers. Because A, your kid may not answer that phone call. It's an unknown number. You don't know that, right?
Right.
So here it is, a gentleman asking for my daughter. So I said, this is her mother. How may I help you? He stated his name and the college he was calling from. And then he said, we received your daughter's application, but did not receive the application fee. Now, ladies, I'm going to pause here for just a moment. That's following directions. So already I'm like, oh, geez, now what, right? And then he continues, and we'd like to offer her tuition, fees, room, board, and books. But we need the fee to process the scholarship.
Wow.
Now I've got my daughter on speakerphone and I can tell she's ready to jump up and down for joy. And I'm like, put the hand across the neck here, like, calm down. We don't have all the facts here yet, right? Because colleges don't call you because you forgot to send the check. That application should have ended up in a pile on a desk somewhere waiting for the check that would never come. Because how would I know? So I asked, you do know she's a junior? And he said, yes, ma'am. We'll wait for her. Okay, so now I'm thinking, what did we do right in this application? Well, about the same time, she applied to her first national scholarship. And this scholarship was a $10,000 scholarship. And she won that. And that company called to tell her that she won. And they also sent airline tickets and hotel reservations for the entire family to send us to the corporate conference so they could hand her the big check on the stage.
Wow.
$10,000. All right. Now, my daughter applied to 8 colleges, both public colleges, private colleges, across 3 states. And we heard similar things at some of the other colleges. As a matter of fact, one of them, because you can only attend one college, right? You got one school, one choice. So once she made her choice, she sent a formal letter withdrawing her application to the other colleges. Well, one of the colleges that she had withdrawn from and turned down called to ask, what can we do to get you to come here? And then they proceeded to offer additional scholarships, a work study job, whatever they could think of, because they could already envision her impacting the campus community and making an impact on her own community as an alumni. You have to remember, colleges don't offer scholarships for you. It's not a pat on the back for your kid, job well done. It's not what it's about. Everything a college does is for themselves. It's not for you. So my son is 5 years younger. Can we do this again? Yes, we can. Well, once we dropped my son off at college, we started getting phone calls and emails and text messages asking, okay, Denise, here's where we are. Or my friend told me I had to call you. What do we do next? What do we do? And I found myself copying and pasting. This is what we did. My kids aren't geniuses by any means, but this is what we did. So there you go. I don't guarantee it's going to work for anybody else, but this is what made sense for us.
Yeah.
And after we dropped my son off, we bought a 42-foot motorhome and went full-time RVing for 5 years. Because when you're not paying for your kids to go to school, you get to have fun because it's your money. And at one point, my husband said, we've always had a small business. What can we do while we're on the road? And I realized I'm already doing it. I might as well put this online. So that's how Cracking the Code to College began. But one more thing that I want to mention. Between the two kids, they attended college on 17 scholarships, totaling more than $199,000. My daughter had $4,000 left over when she graduated, and my son had $10,000 left over.
Wow.
This is doable. And not just for my own kids. The families that I counsel, 100% of them win scholarships. Now, nationally, only 1 in 8 college students gets a scholarship. 1 in 8, that's 12.5%. And nationally, 0.3% have enough scholarships to cover their cost of attendance. We were in that 0.3%. But among those families that are winning scholarships with me, 31% have enough scholarships to cover everything. That's 1,000 times the national average. This just works.
Wow. That's
I have
amazing.
12 grandkids.
Well, if they're kindergarten or up, they can start applying to scholarships.
Some of them are.
Wow.
There's only one, let's see, two below kindergarten and 2 on the way. So the other 8 are eligible.
Well, it's funny because about a year and a half ago, I started getting phone calls from people whose oldest children was 7 and 8 years old. And I'd have to, talk dad down because he was like on the ledge, realizing he was going to have to pay $1 million for his 3 little girls to go to school in 10 years. And so, they end up on my email list because they don't want to forget. I don't send a lot of emails. Once a week, totally tops. Unless there's something I really think you need to attend, then you might get 3 in a week. But now I have families whose kids, I kid you not, the oldest is 2 years old. They just want to make sure they don't screw this up. So it doesn't matter where your kids are. And I have to add this. Obviously, it's never too early to get started, but it's also never too late. Now, the bulk of scholarships are for high school seniors, but you do not want to wait that late because the entire process of making this work actually does start in middle school. So families that come to me and their kids are already high school seniors, I can't fix a $40,000 gap per year. I do not walk on water. There have been choices that have been made, decisions that have been made, and we cannot undo that. But if you come to me earlier, there's a lot we can change. Now, for those who are going forward, seniors, current college students, or even professional school students, it is entirely possible to add an additional $12,000 or so per year. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to cover college, but it's more than you had in the bank yesterday.
I have a question.
Go for
I'm
it.
going to tell you my story briefly, my daughter's story. Okay, so I homeschool mom. She's been homeschooled the whole time. She started spring of her sophomore year in dual enrollment at a college. We heard that was the best way for us at the time to get those extra college credits, kind of knock off some money. So she started with one college, then she said she quickly realized, wait, I tap out at 30 credits. I can do more. So she applied to another college and did dual credit at two colleges while she was in high school. And so she ended and we stopped it. I don't know if this is a myth. This is all things I need to ask you. We stopped it at 59 credits because we heard that once you're at 60 credits, they consider it an associate's degree and then they lower the financial aid you can get. Anyway, so we stopped it at 59 credits. She got both colleges that she went to, she got um their highest, their like presidential scholarship, $17,500, right? Well, the remaining tuition was $17,000 was the extra that she would have had to pay. Well, since she started before COVID and then during COVID, she was doing all these online classes and she said, can I just continue online? And they said, well, yeah, that's actually half the cost. And we said, great, her scholarship will cover the whole thing. And they said, no, your scholarship is only if you attend in person. And she said, well, are the classes like different? And they said, no. So we went like round and round with them. They would not do it. So we ended up going the cheaper route. And she's end of her junior year right now. And they took all the credits from the other college. The one college took all of them. And um, but now I'm questioning, well, wait a minute, should I have pressed harder? Should I have what should I have asked for here? Because I'm like, if they're willing to give her the supposed highest scholarship they offer, what am I losing here? You
Yeah, and
know?
I understand that. So a couple of things here. We do hear a lot, and I call him Uncle Dave. Dave Ramsey is big on attend community college first. That's a yes and a no.
Okay.
For homeschoolers, and I homeschooled both of mine, for homeschoolers, you have to be attending community college for the right reasons. And it could just be a local college. Your local university might be, 2 blocks down. Dual enrollment or dual credit during high school, you can get the AA as long as all of those credits take place prior to your graduating your child. Okay. The second they step foot out of high school and then they start taking college credits, even if it's during the summer hours, there is a limit to how many credits they can have and not be considered a transfer student versus an incoming freshman. That's
Okay.
what you were talking about. So for the vast majority of colleges, it's going to be 11 credit hours. In other words, just shy of full time. Full time is 12 hours.
Okay.
Occasionally you'll find one that says 30 hours. 29, you're still cool. 30, no way.
Okay.
But you have to know. The other reason to really be cautious about those getting a crud load of credits in early is, what is the plan for what college the child plans to actually get their final degree from, their actual bachelor's degree? So will that college accept every one of those credits? Now, the vast majority of kids are applying to schools all over the place, different states, different counties, blah, 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 different types of schools, maybe not even in the same state system of schools. If you remain within a state system, you're likely to have more of those credits count. And here's what I mean by count. If you call a college and say, hey, my daughter's attending this school and she's taking these classes, I need to find out if they're going to transfer, because she's planning to attend there, in a year or two. Every college is going to say, oh, yes, ma'am. All of it transfers. But your definition of transfer and theirs are two different things. When you mean transfer, you're saying English 101 counts as English 1001, and it's the tit for tat, one-to-one relationship on the transcript. But what they mean is that, yeah, it's going to show up on the transcript, but what's really going to happen is that math class, that English class, that philosophy class, whatever it might be, is going to end up at the bottom of the transcript under other electives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people have been stung by this. They've got their AA. They're all excited. Well, maybe we'll get at least 30 of those 60 hours. And then you come up, you end up the college they want to go to accepts 2 classes. You know what I'm saying? You just have to know these things going in. So the real reason for taking dual enrollment is for course rigor. When your child is applying to their actual college they plan to graduate from, they're looking for the GPA, the test scores, and course rigor. That's the academic side of what they're looking for. And course rigor is AP classes, dual enrollment classes, IB, etc. So you have to have a few of those, but you don't have to have, 15 of them for the vast majority of colleges and universities. A lot of people get stung by that. Look, high school should be fun. Don't pressure your kid to take a bunch of stuff that is going to make them miserable all through high school.
Yeah.
But when it comes to those scholarships, there are rules, and you have to read the fine print. Every college will have some type, every college has, quote, and I'm putting this in air quotes, scholarships, but many colleges, those scholarships are not merit scholarships. It's not based on your child's GPA or test scores. It's actually need-based financial aid. And if you read the fine print, it's very specific. Harvard, those types of schools, they don't offer merit scholarships at all, not one.
Wow.
So I don't care how wonderful your child is, they're not getting any. So unless you're low income or your income fits in this chart that they have on their website, you're not getting any cash. So from that perspective, you have to look for colleges that do offer merit-based scholarships. The scholarships may have a limit to how many extra scholarships you can bring in from outside. And if you're not aware of that, you can get stung by that too. I have a gentleman, his son is in my college level program, and he decided to transfer to another college midstream. The initial school gave him an exit scholarship that went to the transfer school, and he got a local scholarship too. That's cool. But the new school sent back the local scholarship to the awarding organization, and then only used a piece of the scholarship that came from the other college. And they sent him a letter that said, "You've reached your limit." Colleges, even if they stack scholarships one on top of the other, can limit how much your child receives. And that limit can be tuition and fees, meaning room, board, and books. You're covering, I don't care how many scholarships you think you're getting, we're sending them back. It could
Wow.
be tuition, fees, room, and board, which is still better than the latter. But you need to know this going in,
Right.
right? Because it looks like this. And the other thing too is if you are a need-based family, and you know who you are, if you're a financial need-based family, and your child, let's say, is offered work study and a subsidized loan or a partial subsidized loan, and maybe part of the Pell Grant, maybe not, or maybe even the college is offering a need-based discount. Maybe you get one from the state, whatever, but you are a need-based family. When your child brings in those external scholarships, it can displace some of that need-based aid. It's called scholarship displacement because your need is no longer as great. Now,
This is
this
an
is
interesting.
not
We gotta
fun.
take, yeah, we gotta take a break for just a second to switch over to Cheryl's channel because we stopped this in the middle and I am failing at my job as a timer. So um the next part, we're gonna pause just a second. The next part will be right on Cheryl's, and I will put the link in my iCard above.